Did you know that over 50% of people's first impressions of you are made by your body language? Stay tuned today on Moxie Talk when I unpack the surprising secrets on how changing your body language will make people perceive you as more confident, but actually feel more confident too. Hi, I'm Fia Fastbinder, and welcome to Moxie Talk, where I help you find your voice, share your message, and lead with confidence. Today, I will be unpacking body language, specifically how body language affects not only how others perceive you, but how you perceive yourself. So let's get started. Welcome to part one of a two-part series on body language. In this particular video, I will unpack one of my favorite techniques to make sure that you are presenting with confidence with your body, which is a presentation power pose. Now, one of my favorite quotes about body language is, "What you do speaks so loudly that I can't hear what you say." And that's a Ralph Waldo Emerson quote. Now, most psychologists believe in a theory they call CTBA, which means change your thoughts to change your behavior to change your actions. But at Moxie, we believe in CBTA, which means change your behavior to change your thoughts, to change your actions. And this is directly related to everything we teach about body language and nonverbal communication. Now, when I talk about nonverbal communication, I like the iceberg analogy. If you picture an iceberg, what you say is the tip of the iceberg. That's what's showing above the water. And underneath the water is this giant iceberg. And that biggest part of the iceberg is really your nonverbal communication and how we use our bodies to convey our message. So what an audience sees in our body is just as important as what they hear us say. Now, we use our bodies in conscious and very unconscious ways to communicate with our audience. And we'll talk about a couple studies and some research on body language that point to the fact that body language accounts for more than 50% of what people think of you. Now, along that lines, there was an interesting study that came out in Business Insider that said you have 7 seconds to make a first impression. And if you think about 7 seconds, that is if you are walking into an interview, walking to the front of a boardroom to give a presentation, getting up to start your PowerPoint. 7 seconds is really largely nonverbal. Most of us don't even start speaking in the first 7 seconds. So that means that our bodies are making that first impression. And it's much easier to make a confident first impression than to spend the rest of your interview or your presentation or your speech or your client pitch trying to undo that unconfident first impression. Now, my favorite technique to teach confident body language is what I call commanding the space. And we are going to focus on commanding the space. But first, I want to talk a little bit about my experience as an actor. When I was an actor, if I had to play a confident character, I would spend hours and hours and hours watching confident people and watching what they do with their body and then trying to emulate that body language on stage. And eventually, after using that physicality on stage from scene to scene and moment to moment, I would start to feel more confident. And I use the same approach with our clients. We call this an outside-in approach. We are changing our behavior to change our thoughts. As a coach, we spend hours and hours working on body language as well. And our ultimate goal is what we call the happy warrior. And Amy Cuddy, a behavioral psychologist who we will talk about in a bit, coined this term in regards to body language. And what she meant by the happy warrior is that we want body language that is a combination of strength and warmth, that conveys both credibility and trustworthiness. And a lot of that happy warrior stance and happy warrior body language can come from commanding the room. Now, before we get into that commanding the room technique, I want to point out an experience that I've definitely had, and probably you've had, and a lot of first-time speakers and actors have, which is you're feeling really prepared, you're feeling really good, and you're ready to go, and all of a sudden the lights come up and everyone is staring at you, and your body does the strange thing. It shrinks. We literally contract and make ourselves smaller. We pull everything in, and we do this because we're nervous or afraid. And our bodies are trying to hide us from being attacked and protect our vital organs. Our bodies and our brains do not know the difference between fear of being attacked by a saber-toothed tiger and fear of giving a speech. They just know fear. So if our body and our brain starts to experience fear, it's going to do everything it can to protect us from being attacked. And that usually means getting small and caving in. The problem with this is if our body isn't expressing confidence, the audience can see that, and we won't be taken as credible, which obviously we need to be. And what a shame is this, because we could be a subject matter expert. We could be the leader in our industry with a PhD. And because we're nervous and it shows in our body, our audience discredits us, or at best feels sorry for us. Now, thankfully, psychologists like Amy Cuddy, who I mentioned before, have done some fascinating research on how to change all this. And when I've used that research on our clients, I see some dramatic changes and improvements in body language, as do all of our coaches and trainers, because we teach our clients to command the space that they're in. Now, before we dive into Amy Cuddy's power posing and how you can apply that to your public speaking so that you command the space, let's talk about the Mehrabian study. That is the most historic and seminal study done on an audience's perception of a speaker's credibility. And it was done in Stanford in the 1970s. And although that was a long time ago, it is still considered the most historic and seminal study on body language because a lot of this is universal and it doesn't change over time. Now, the study was based on 3 areas. They measured speakers' tone of voice, their body language, on their content. And then they asked the audience if the speaker was credible based on those 3 areas. And the numbers are pretty astounding if you haven't heard the study before. 38% of the speaker's credibility was based on tone of voice, meaning the audience thought that speaker was credible or not credible based on their tone of voice. 55% was based on non-verbal cues, so our posture and our eye contact and if we're commanding the space. So 55% of those speakers' credibility was based on whether they were using their body in a confident, credible way or not. And only 7% of the audience's perception of the speaker's credibility was based on choice of words. Now, this is not to say your words don't matter. They do matter. But it is to say that the way you use those words and the way you use your body can absolutely either undermine or amplify those words. So we want to make sure, obviously, that our body language is amplifying our words and amplifying our credibility and helping us appear more confident and credible so that we can be taken more seriously. So let's think about this in the context of how you prepare for a presentation. I'm going to ask you honestly, how many of you spend 38% of your time working on your vocal delivery and 55% of your time working on your body language? Probably not many of you. If you're like most of us, we spend most of our time working on our content. And after all that work, we just wing the delivery and hope it will go well. So I'm hoping that after this, you will no longer hope your body language will be good enough and hope that it will convey confidence and credibility. And instead, you will practice to make sure that you create a presentation where your body language amplifies your message instead of undermines it. There's nothing worse than preparing for presentation and then having your body language undermine your message because you're nervous. So let's go back to the researchers that have spent a lot of time thinking about how we can use our bodies to convey authority and credibility in a presentation. And I have mentioned Amy Cuddy several times before. She is one of my favorite researchers on body language. Now, Amy Cuddy is a behavioral psychologist, and she is also a professor at the Harvard Business School. And many of you have probably heard of Amy Cuddy because she has a very famous TED Talk, one of the most watched TED Talks of all time, called Your Body Language Shapes Who You Are. And in this very famous TED Talk, she unpacked her research on power posing. Now, a power pose is any pose that makes you bigger than yourself. You know, we see animals do power posing in nature, but in those kind of situations, it's usually because they are fighting, and it's a kind of an aggressive pose. When we talk about power posing, we're not talking about anything aggressive. We are talking about simply expanding our body and making it bigger than it is. And in this particular study that Amy Cuddy did, the power pose she had her participants emulate was a Superman pose, or the V pose. And she had them do it for 2 minutes a day, every day for a month. And what she found is that their testosterone levels, which is their power hormone for both men and women, increased by 25%. And their cortisol levels, which is our stress hormone, decreased by 25%. So this is pretty amazing. Simply by doing a power pose, we have increases in our testosterone and decreases in our cortisol. Now, if you follow Amy Cuddy, you know that there's been a lot of talk about being able to simulate these numbers again. And so far, nobody has been able to get to that exact 25%. However, we do know that power posing does increase testosterone and decrease cortisol. So just by using confident body language, we not only are perceived as more confident, we feel more confident. So how does this translate to public speaking? If you are feeling nervous and you do what your body wants to do, which is slouch or put your hands down or put your hands in your pockets or hunch over your smartphone or the teleprompter or the podium or cross your arms or any of these small low power poses, you will obviously not only be perceived as being less confident, you will start to feel that way. However, if you pull your shoulders back and you hold your head up high and you do a high power pose, you not only look better and appear more confident and enthusiastic and successful and captivating, you actually start to feel that way. So Amy Cuddy says we change our bodies to change our minds. And our minds change our behavior, and our behavior changes our outcomes. So we don't fake it until we make it. As she most famously says, we fake it till we become it. Now, this is something that speaker coaches and speakers know very well. During the first 5 minutes of your presentation, you will be the most nervous. If you want to make sure that you are conveying strength and confidence and credibility, and you want to do that in the way you carry yourself, it's so important that you fake it till you become it. That means even though you are feeling nervous, you don't show that in your body. You fake the body language of a confident person. And eventually, in about 5 minutes or so, you're going to start to get your flow, and you're going to start to feel more confident, just like actors do when they are playing a confident character. They put on the body language of that confident person and they start to feel more confident. In order to really help you understand how to use power posing, and how to have a happy warrior, I want you to first stand with your feet equally balanced between your shoulders and your weight equally balanced, your feet. And I want you to really imagine that there are roots growing from the soles of your shoes or the soles of your feet into the ground. And they're really keeping you there. They're grounding you, they're rooting you, they're making sure you don't blow over, you don't move where you shouldn't be moving, and they're really just holding you in place. And then I want you to open up your chest cavity. If you are rounding your shoulders, or slouching, make sure you bring your chest up and consciously open your chest area to the world. So we don't want to wrench our shoulders back. We just want to let them kind of fall into place. One of the things I sometimes say to clients is if you were to be sliced from top to bottom, that your shoulders would be on the back side, not the front side. So that's the first, is you stand with your feet shoulder width apart, really balanced, grounded. The second is you make sure that your chest cavity is open. And the last is that you want to make sure you are standing tall. And a really easy way to do this is to imagine a string from the middle of your head, just gently pulling you towards the ceiling and gently straightening out the S curve in your spine. So if you do this, you will not only signal that you're ready, that you're engaged, that you're stable, but you also really signal that happy warrior, that combination of strength and warmth that comes from our body language. And subtle body language differences can really make a huge difference in our audience's perception of us and obviously in our perception of ourselves. So, of course, posture matters, not only because of the perception you make when you slouch or slump, but also when you slump over, your rib cage is blocking the biggest, most oxygen-rich part of your lungs. So you can't get enough air out for a powerful, confident voice. Now, I have discussed diaphragmatic breathing in several of my other videos. So if you're interested in having a confident speaking voice as well as confident body language, I invite you to watch some of my other videos on breath support. But for the purposes of this video, it's just important to know that your posture matters and that it all starts with good posture. Your perception of yourself, others' perception of you, and your ability to have a confident voice. Now, sometimes when I do power posing with my participants, they go too far and they feel stiff. They feel like this stiff Frankenstein-like character. So I like to do an exercise with them to make sure that they are moving naturally on stage and naturally in those boardrooms or naturally in those virtual boardrooms and Zoom. And I call this the shakedown. And really this means just shaking your body out so that all of that adrenaline is not causing you to be stiff. And the way I do a shakedown with my speakers is I like them to shake their right hand and their arm really hard, really hard, really hard, really hard. I'm not shaking too hard now because I don't want my microphone to go flying off, but you want to really shake until you just literally, when you stop, you feel all of your body kind of tingle. And do that with your right hand and your arm. And then repeat that with your left hand and your arm. Shake, 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 shake to loosen up your arm and your hand so everything's kind of tingling. You can feel all the energy starting to move. And then you can't see my legs, but do the same thing with your legs. I like to imagine that a little dog is biting at my shoe and I'm trying to shake it off. So really shake off that dog. Even if you're a dog lover, do it for the exercise, and then do the other leg. And then shake your whole body like there's ants on your body, fire ants on your body. This is great, the shakedown, because it will help you be more fluid. It will help you move naturally. It doesn't take up a lot of room. You can do it backstage. You can do it in a bathroom stall. You can do it in your office. And it will make sure that you're not only using your power posing, but you are moving naturally on stage. Some of my clients prefer to do jumping jacks or push-ups or run around the block. Anything you can do to get your body shaking so that it is not stiff when you go to present. That is the end of part 1 of our 2-part series on confident body language. If you liked this video, please make sure to watch part 2 and watch our other videos on body language and confidence when you are presenting. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it and you want to deep dive into all things body language, watch the other videos in this series. And if you want to deep dive into all things presentations, watch our other videos. And it would be great if you haven't done this yet, if you liked or shared this video or liked or shared our other videos. And last but not least, make sure to subscribe to our channel if you haven't done that, and hit that alert button so you get notified of all of the great content as soon as it hits the presses. Until next time, remember to lead brilliantly, live boldly, and speak with moxie.